welcome. This is our 5th podcast. We got 50 viewers so far on this podcast, I think. Watch out.
Hey.
Watch out. So we've got Vitor DeOliveira, all claims.
Public
adjusting. He's a public adjuster. What the hell is a public adjuster? If you don't know what that is, Vitor will explain to you what a public adjuster is, because a lot of people don't know. They have no idea.
Absolutely. So as a public adjuster, basically, we provide assistance to homeowners for any kind of damages that they may have, for leaks, any kind of, plumbing leaks of any sorts, whether kitchen leak, bathroom leaks, shower leaks, even roof leaks of any sorts. We live in a hurricane-prone state, so any kind of hurricane damage, wind damage of any sorts, hail damage, any kind of damage to homes, businesses, we're readily available to assist them. I know a lot of previous business owners had their business interruption as well from COVID and all that, and that's definitely something that, we provide assistance with, obviously with helps with attorneys like yourself. We're able to also kind of move forward on those claims as well.
Cool. Awesome. So Dennis, could you kill that fan real quick? Kill that fan, thanks. Dennis likes it freezing cold in the room for some weird reason. One, we work with a lot of public adjusters as lawyers because we do homeowners insurance claims. So if any other public adjusters want to get on here, please don't hate me. Vitor literally volunteered yesterday.
Yes.
We'd love to have other public adjusters on there. So you handle claims statewide.
Yes.
You basically get a phone call from somebody.
Correct.
A lot of times you get calls from plumbers, AC guys, restoration companies, mold companies, roofers, and they call you and they say, hey, I got a possible case. Why don't you come out here?
Correct.
And the reason for that is let me ask you a question. Why do roofing companies call public adjusters in general and say, hey, we might have a claim here? Is it because they basically they don't want to leave money on the table from the insurance company?
No, so a lot of times it benefits the homeowners in an aspect where, if they have a claim where, it's something that your insurance that you're paying on a yearly basis to assist you with that process to pay those claims, the roofers understand that it's best to bring in public adjusters like myself, because not only that, they don't have to cut corners. The homeowners are going to be getting paid properly, so therefore, they can come in, do the proper jobs, and get paid properly on the jobs instead of shorting themselves, and then end up losing profits as well.
So like, for instance, I just had a guy, this is a funny case. So it's two guys. Well, it's four guys. I got to start from the beginning. It's four guys. This is getting weird. Right. It's getting kinky. There's four guys. They're best friends for life.
Okay.
They buy land. They build 2 villas.
Right.
A villa is a single story building, shared roof. It's kind of like a duplex.
Right.
I think a villa is a fancy word for duplex, but anyways, two buddies in this one building sharing the same roof.
Right.
We just got the one guy $30,000. They both have the same insurance company.
Yep.
They both have the same insurance company. We got one guy on the right side of the building, $30,000 for his roof.
Right.
The neighbor has the same insurance company. They're offering him $1,000.
Okay.
I go to the roofer that sent us the case. I go to the roofer. I go, hey, how much is it going to cost to fix the roof? He goes like $15,000. It's like $15,000. I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. Yeah. So I think the buddy who got the 30 G's is going to pay for the roof until his buddy's case, because they need a new roof.
Right.
Their roof is leaking.
Correct.
It's a shared roof.
Yes, and even though it's the same carrier, they have separate coverages as far as policies and everything else. So
yeah. No. It's the same policy, same carrier, same coverage.
Different claim number.
Different claim number, different adjuster.
Okay.
Yeah, so you were an adjuster for State Farm for how many years?
For about 10 years.
If you have an idiot adjuster who hates their job and hates their life, they will make everyone's life miserable.
Correct.
And that's what's going on this case. And we're like, hey, so you paid $30,000 for the guy on the right side. Why are you offering $1,000? Oh, that's not me. That's a different adjuster. I'm better than them. They don't know what they're doing. I said, oh, but like Do you guys just like, oh, here's money, or do you have like a process?
So every carrier obviously has a different process, but for the most part, usually whoever that claim handler is the person that's responsible, like basically the authority. So they feel like so they're the responsible person for that claim.
So if I bribe that adjuster, I'm gonna get paid really well.
Well, I mean, if he
there's no levels of authority here. Are you kidding me?
So every adjuster in house will basically carry their own level of authority, where they're allowed to cut a certain amount of check. Like I know when I worked for the insurance, my authority level was $100,000. So anything damages that exceeded over $100K, my manager at that point would have to review the file and then make a certain decision. And then management also carried a certain amount of level of authority that exceeded that. So the bigger the case is, the higher up it'll go, and the more headaches you'll have to do, because obviously in order for somebody to put their signature on a big check, they want to make sure everything is covered. And
so on day one, you had authority to settle claims up to $100,000.
No, day one I had $0. So I had a trainer attached to my hip for about 6 months. They sent me to Illinois, where basically I got trained. They put me in the house, set buildings on fire, and basically said, hey, go estimate this. And it was an extensive amount of training that I had gotten before they started giving me an authority. And even when I started, it was like, here's $10,000. Most roof is over $10,000, that you go by. So every case for at least the first year was having to get my manager's blessing to say, hey, okay, we're okay with paying this kind of claim.
So I got to wait some time before I start bribing adjusters at State Farm to throw in some real dollars. Right. Some we'll call those daddy dollars.
Right. Add that to our list. You got to ask them right away. How long have you been with the company?
Well, a lot of the independent adjusters also, if I were to want to get an adjuster, I would rather get an independent, because depending on those, it just varies on what kind of contract they have with the carrier as well.
Those guys have no authority in my dealings with them.
So depending on the carrier, yes. Some of them, they're just picture takers and what I call them measurers, estimators, that they get a flat fee to go out and just take some pictures and measurements and everything else.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit. We represented this guy. He was kind of a douchebag for a car accident case. Right. He wanted $1 million for his car accident, and he didn't want to see any doctors or treat at all. But he goes, I'm a storm chaser. I work for insurance companies. Remember that guy? He's a prick. He goes, I chase storms, man. I've lived here. I've lived there. I lived there. Every storm, he just packs up, goes out there, and he starts calling insurance companies and telling them, hey, I'm here. Let me go out. And
those are more of the extreme guys. I worked, I started off in my career as an independent adjuster as well. So, but I worked at the time was with Worley. They're now called Outricity, and the reason why they changed name, the owner actually of that company actually got arrested for embezzlement. He actually ended up taking a lot of money from his own people. Back when they had the BP oil spill, I found out that a lot of those adjusters, because they had contracts with the carrier.
So everybody's thinking like I am. How do we bribe these guys to get the most amount of money possible? Those BP oil cases made some guys rich.
Like I know guys that as an adjuster, they went out there, they basically, went in there with nothing and came back out of deployment with 30-foot boats. Coming back home.
30-foot boats ain't that big. I had a 30-foot boat. We got to talk about 70-foot yachts. That's what I mean, if I'm committing insurance fraud, it's on a massive scale. Right. I want to get a big boat, 70 feet.
I'm talking
minimum.
about the adjusters. The owner himself, he embezzled millions of dollars. So so that's why they changed names. So Worley doesn't exist now. They're Outricity. So based on that, but
what's it called?
Outricity.
Altruicity, like altruist, like someone who gives away money. Ugh.
Right.
Bad name for them. So the guy that I was talking about, that Chris met him. Chris did his sign up. He basically told me, I go out, I type up a report, I put it in, I'm drawing a blank right now on the software everybody uses. Xactimate. Right. I put it in Xactimate, and the insurance company has the ability to just go in and change my estimate.
Correct.
And they went in and they changed all of his estimates, and he had certain stuff in there that he's like, this is covered. If you're going to cover this, you have to cover this. Right. And they're like, no. And they just started deleting stuff and changing stuff. And to me, I said, that's insurance fraud. What the insurance company's doing, it's fraud. Because his name is on the bottom of that report.
Yes.
And they're changing it without his signature, without his permission.
Yes and no. So like I said, as an adjuster for the insurance company, he goes out, he assesses, and he writes an estimate what he believes should be covered. There's also a desk adjuster that holds the same license, but again, she's the authority. So she's the one that, or he or she will be the one making that decision. She has the access to go into those estimates and take out any line items or add any line items that she feels deemed necessary.
But whose name is at the bottom of the report? If his name's there,
she's supposed to change it to hers or whoever that adjuster that's working. But that could just, I mean, that's just a mistaken. But that happens on a daily basis,
all the time. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible because if I'm the guy out there that you paid to go out there for my opinion,
right,
and I have a license, and you just go in like that's like I'm a lawyer, right? Like if another lawyer comes here and starts signing stuff with my name on it, I'd say, "What are you doing, man? That's my license. You can't do that." But I hear what you're saying, but they're not doing it. It's I forget the name of that company too. It's like some Mickey Mouse insurance company out of Tampa that denies every claim.
SafePoint. I worked with
SafePoint.
Yeah, SafePoint.
It was SafePoint.
Yeah, so I worked with SafePoint as well, and they were really the tipping point for me to come over and work as a public adjuster, simply because, like I said, they don't have the experience, and like you said, a lot of their adjusters. So when I started with them, again, I came with plenty of experience.
Is SafePoint going to sue me now?
Not before we sue them.
Right.
I think we've sued them a bunch of times already.
Yeah, and been pretty successful, with a lot of the litigations that you guys had with them as well. So cases of mine. But, like I said, it's just one of those cases that their adjusters literally they try. When I started there, I had asked one of the desk adjusters, like, hey, how do you come up with an estimate for your kitchen? And his response was, well, last time I got my kitchen repaired, I paid like $10,000. So I think every kitchen should be anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. I said, oh, really? I said, so how do you assume that, let's say this person just doesn't take care of his house, but he's got a pretty expensive kitchen, and you just have a guy that just doesn't know how to write an estimate, and how do you justify that? He goes, well, I don't. I just, I basically try to come to a reasonable number. And I'm like, dude, that's not adjusting. You have to know
that's
material, right? You have to know product knowledge. You have to understand what's being put together, how it's being put together. So
for like. I've seen these guys with the Formica cabinets putting in real wood cabinets after their claim, which kudos to them.
Right.
But they're only supposed to pay you like for like.
Correct. So it's like kind quality, and every policy, it's basically what they look for. So if they don't have that same product available, then you got to go to the next best thing that's equal to what you would have originally had at the time of the loss.
Yeah. So let's, should we talk shit about other public adjusters now that we talked about insurance companies?
Well, I had a question for you, Vito.
Yes.
What would you say to a consumer who thinks that they can handle their claim on their own?
Oh, that's a great question, and it's also the most annoying question. It's like what I tell them is I say, okay, you had a fire in your home. How many times a year do you handle claims where you had a fire in your home and your contents are damaged? And I'm answering the question for you, by the way. And then they go, never, Abe. I don't have fires in my home. I'm not an arsonist. This just happened to me. And I'm like, okay, exactly. Well, I handle them hundreds of times a year. So when you think, if your knee hurts, do you want to do the surgery yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
Or do you want to let someone who does knee surgery all day? I could do the knee surgery. I've seen those guys. They're not that smart.
Right.
I could do a knee surgery. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, doing this. I've seen it for 15 minutes.
Right.
I've been in the room.
Video, you could be a surgeon overnight with YouTube.
I could be a surgeon overnight with YouTube. Yeah. Hey, what's that thing where you sleep in a Holiday Inn? A Holiday. I'm not a surgeon. I slept at a Holiday Inn Express or something. Yeah. So great question, Chris. I'm a piece of shit for talking over you and answering the question. What would you say to consumers if they have a claim and they say, why should I hire you? Why can't I do it on my own?
So, again, like you mentioned, just for the sheer knowledge of knowing what they're expecting and what they're wanting from, the homeowner. A lot of times the carrier, they come in, their adjusters are not that experienced. And if they are, you're lucky. And a lot of times, like I said, if he writes a good estimate, somebody will come in and override their estimate to say, hey, let's pay this. If you don't know how to contest the carrier, how do you have an argument with them? And I want to say a lot of the consumers, that's what they do. They just think, oh, it's a big bad carrier. I don't got a chance with them. They're just going to drain me out of a lot of money. And a lot of times they think, oh, attorneys cost a lot of money if they get involved in this because they don't understand as well. So it's just a situation where I know statistically by bringing in a PA, your value increases about 700%. On a claim, based off of, not you taking care of it yourself as well.
The crazy thing is there's a lot of money. Like these claims are worth a lot of money. So when you don't
drives me crazy.
deal with them on the regular and an insurance company offers you $30K, you're like, that's $30K.
Right.
I'm gonna
pounding on the table, Chris,
I'm
over
take
here.
That $30K, but in reality, if they go to see you, that claim
$30K sounds like a lot until I tell you it's a $300,000 claim, and you're like bullshit, no way. We just closed out a case a few months ago. Super nice couple.
Correct.
Christian people. Home. So the guy had a cell phone. It caught on fire, the battery, and burned down a part of his house. And you're like, oh, it burned down one room.
Right.
Dan, you okay? You doing some weird stuff with the...
make sure
Okay. So he had a fire in one room, and his air conditioner was on.
Right.
So in the hour of them putting out the fire or whatever, smoke is getting sucked into the AC unit and blowing throughout his entire home.
Right.
And the insurance company, after 3 months, he hired a public adjuster who prepared an estimate, did a fantastic job documenting, like, you're owed $400,000 from this one little smoke fire.
Right.
And the guy's like, nah, the insurance company's going to do right. Now that they got this report from a professional, they're going to pay.
Right.
And they didn't pay anything. And the guy for the insurance company was going back and forth with the public adjuster who represents the guy who owns a house.
Right.
And they're not getting anywhere. So that's when they get, Big Daddy Abe involved here with the guns. I got the guns in the Hawaiian shirt, the Tommy Bahama looking fly. So I get on the phone and within 30 days, I got that guy $200,000.
Yep.
Which was actually what his limits were for his personal contents. And then for the damage, for the repairs.
Yeah, that insurance company set that couple through the ringer. I remember.
Oh my God, and that poor guy is so nice.
All their contents was in it like
he was a ball player.
A warehouse, like
oh, really?
He was a ball player for like the Yankees back in the day.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, one of those teams.
Yeah, those poor people.
Nicest people on earth. They literally let the insurance company walk all over them because they didn't know to hire a public adjuster. Or I don't need a lawyer. My insurance company's going to take care of me. And what's that thing? Allstate. Those are the hands of a prayer, right? State Farm, like a good neighbor. These guys don't give a shit about you, man. It's all dollars. Do I want to pay you $200,000? No.
And they're in the business to save money, just like we're in the business to make sure that the insured is being taken care of. And
so your job is to make sure that the homeowner gets taken care of. We all know the insurance company's job is to lowball the shit out of the claim.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times, by not retaining a public adjusters, they leave, like Chris said, a crap load of money on the table simply because of the fact that, they depreciate claims. A lot of times they don't explain to you how to collect that depreciation, that recoverable depreciation that's built in within your policy. You have different coverages. People that, are asthmatic, have allergies, have certain medical problems. There's different coverages that during the repairs, they can go stay at a hotel.
ALE, baby.
Absolutely.
ALE.
So you're thinking like Chris said, $30K, it's not chump change. However, you're leaving another $100K at least on the table for coverages and things like that you as a homeowner, by not retaining a PA, won't know or won't understand unless you've gone through that before and you've kind of been somewhat taught. And if you're taught by the insurance, I promise you, they haven't told you the whole.
No, they don't tell you. They don't tell you the whole story.
Then when they get them this,
this reminds me about my mom.
Okay.
My mom does not want anyone making money off of her.
Right.
If there's a real estate deal, so I got my license when I was 18 to buy and sell real estate. I have real estate salesperson license because she's like, I want to buy a house, but we bought a condo. I want to buy a condo. I don't want anybody taking the 3%. We should get that. So I went and took the test at 18 because not only am I very good looking, but I'm intelligent.
Right.
So I took the test at 18. I took that course. It was like the most boring week of my life. And then I passed it, whatever.
Okay.
I got my 3%. She would tell me, I'm not hiring this public adjuster guy. I don't need a lawyer. They just want to make money off of me. And it's like, yeah, this is a win-win. Because what I forgot to mention about the guy with the fire, he paid $18,000 to redo to tear out the shitty drywall covered in soot.
Right.
He had his AC unit cleaned. And there's no more soot he had the ducts cleaned.
Yep.
18 grand. He got the rest of the money for himself. He redid, they took out the carpets, put new stuff in. I mean, the guy, I'm not saying he had a windfall, but he got some cash in his pocket, tax-free. He got some cash in his pocket. He can remodel his house now. So now he actually has a nicer house than he had before.
Which was necessary because all that soot and everything. People don't understand how bad after a fire things are.
Right.
He had to get rid of the kitchen cabinets.
Not livable.
He had to get rid of the kitchen cabinets. He had to get rid of his appliances in his kitchen because those machines are on. The refrigerator sucks in air.
Right.
So he had soot inside of his refrigerator. Now, mind you, his insurance company had him they were paying him ALE, assisted living expenses, additional living expenses because he had to live outside the house.
Right.
But this is the worst part. They were paying him late. So he had to pay a mortgage and he had to pay rent because he couldn't live in his house. It was covered in soot. So he had to move out. And they weren't paying him rent on time. So he had to pay his rent on time. They were like 2-3 months behind this poor guy.
Oh, wow.
And he's the nicest guy on earth.
Right.
I don't know how he didn't scream and yell at these people after 30 days. But we ended up getting him enough money where I think it was like $250 we got him. But something, I don't remember, man. But it was like the max limits.
Right.
And if we filed a lawsuit, and this was without filing a lawsuit. If I filed a lawsuit, I would have made a ton of money in legal fees too.
Right.
But I knew that guy was the right thing to do for him.
Right.
To keep going back to my story because it's my podcast. Right. So let me ask you a question. What's your story that sticks out in your head?
Right.
That one every homeowner has what happens to 5 out of 10 homeowners that call you?
So one of the ones that stick out the most is a case over in Port St. Lucie area. Basically, again, I showed up, homeowner tried to do the same thing. Hey, let me do this on my own. I can handle this. After a year of her getting told, no, we're not going to pay this, this is not covered, and so on and so forth, she actually ended up getting about $500 out of the whole entire claim. And it was a water leak into her bathroom. The EMS that the insurance company sent out, which is, again, their water restoration company that they got on their payroll, that they'll say, hey, go over here, here's $2,500, and just dry it out and move on to the next job. They come in, they tell the homeowner, hey, you got a little bit of mold on the corner here, but you're fine. And they throw fans into the room and basically, just start drying the house up. Well, what happens when you don't pull a mold protocol and you don't follow the correct steps? Basically, they're blowing mold all throughout the house the moment they start putting those machines there. So it was a situation that, I was like, hey, did anybody else come here? And she was like, no, I've been fighting with the insurance. She was at a point where she wanted to divorce her husband because she was like, you either get on the phone, and her husband ended up finding me and saying, hey, he owns a pawn shop. So he was like, I don't got the time to be handling this. And my wife's obviously clearly upset. Long story short, ended up going into litigation and, ended up getting a settlement. You guys actually were the ones that handled it.
We handled it at our office?
That was a $185,000 settlement.
Nice.
And like I said, we ended up, after, checking out the mold and actually swabbing, we actually ended up swabbing, the clothes on the baby that they had. They had 3 young kids.
Wow.
They had a 5-month-old at the time, and all those results came back positive for mold, which again, they were trusting that insurance carrier would take care of them.
Yeah.
Initially, they only got about $10,000. Like I said, they got $10,000 on the hurricane claim that I found out after going there for a bathroom claim that they were also trying to get compensated for the hurricane. So the insurance ended up settling both of the cases together for a little over $185K. After everything was said and done. And
that's a lot of money at the pawn shop. At the pawn shop.
Absolutely. So they were definitely excited. I know it took that case took roughly about a year, but at the end of the day, with the results that they got, they were super happy, and they had nothing better than to say about, hey, thanks for at least coming out and taking a look, because they were at a point that they didn't know how else to move forward with the claim.
Yeah, these vendors that the insurance companies hire are literally the dumbest people I've ever met. The vendors are not professionals in any way
At all.
They are people who say, my services are, I will accept X amount of dollars
Right.
for this job. And they don't quote a fair amount to do the job right. They don't quote a high amount to do the job right. They quote a low amount to do the job horribly.
Right.
So I've seen those guys, they've taken people's clothes after hurricane damage, all types of different damage, smoke damage, lose the clothes. They misplaced the clothes. I had another guy, they spent thousands of dollars at a dry cleaner to clean the clothes. And the clothes, I could tell you from day one, there's no way that, there was one guy, he had a fire with a wicker table.
Okay.
And it was a candle. And the candle was one of those like rolly, it was like on a coconut shell.
Right.
And it tipped over and burned the wicker, the resin wicker, which creates really black smoke. There's no way you could clean that guy's clothes. His clothes stinks of smoke forever.
Correct.
They spent thousands of dollars trying to clean it. And then they tried, this was a universal property claim. Universal property, they have that little, is it an elephant? What
yeah,
is that?
The red elephant.
The red elephant, yeah. Great logo, shitty company, okay? Sorry, if you're watching this and you work for Universal, I'm sorry, you know. So they offered the guy
$5K probably, because that's normal for you.
That's probably their authority. That's probably their authority. So yeah, were you handling this case?
No.
So I don't remember what they offered him, but let's say his coverage limits were I don't know. It was a small condo. I don't know. Let's say they were like 100.
Right.
Okay, for fire damage, whatever. They offered something really small, and I said no. So then they said, all right, you caught us, because I filed the lawsuit. They're like, you got us, you totally caught us, our pants were down, you got us. We'll pay everything minus what we already paid. And I'm like, you guys, not only did they send a dry cleaning guy to go over there and clean clothes that would never be cleaned, they sent these guys over from Tampa to Boca Raton to wash the inside of a refrigerator. But mind you, again, the refrigerator sucks in air which is full of soot.
Right.
You can't clean all the little bits and pieces in a refrigerator.
Right, you got to take it all apart.
They spent $5,000 to clean a $2,000, $1,000 refrigerator. His air conditioning unit, they did a half-assed job cleaning the coils and stuff.
Right.
Soot in the filter, I don't think they replaced the filter. There's soot in all of the filter at that point. And they're like, I think they spent $25,000. And I was like, overall to clean. And I was like, no, you're going to pay every single penny of the policy limits. And you know what they did? They paid that. Plus they paid my attorney's fees.
Right.
This guy was like, how did you get him to do that? And I go, dude, you don't see these guns ready? These are pythons.
You're talking to Abe.
And when these don't work, I got the guns in the safe ready to go. Yeah, I mean, we sue because what the homeowners don't know is when I file a lawsuit, they have to pay my attorney's fees.
Correct.
So I don't say, hey, listen, your claim is, it's not like a car accident case where your case is worth $10,000. I keep 1/3 of it and they get the other 66% minus any medical bills. But this is literally, I work for free they don't pay me a penny.
Right. Similar to me. You know, I work on a contingency as well where.
Well, you guys are on a different contingency.
Correct.
You guys keep a percentage of what you collect.
Correct.
But on your end, you guys boost the value of the claim legitimately to what it should be.
Correct.
Because there's nobody's going to cut you a break to go get bedding and stuff like that.
And the sad reality for the most part is a lot of the legislation and legislators blame, PAs and attorneys for the inflation of a lot of these premium costs, when in all actuality it's if you did your job right and you came out and you assessed these values of these claims properly, there wouldn't be a need for us. And basically we're, like you said, the strong arm for the homeowner to say, hey, we're going to be, making sure that you do that. It's almost like a military structure. The attorneys being the captains, the generals, and like the PAs being almost like the frontline workers, or like the infantrymen, where we're basically going in, getting the details of the claim, putting the case together and everything, and then, hey, if we don't get the value that we believe is the correct value. Some customers like, well, this is enough. Well, yeah, in your mind it may be enough, but do you want, the unlicensed guy that's charging you $3,000, or versus do you want a legitimate company that, hey, if something breaks, or they're not going to just turn around and disappear tomorrow, And those guys are charging more for a reason, because, they, again, have license to keep, they have locations to keep, so they're not going anywhere. So you're going to get a different value of, repairs and everything else.
Do the job right.
So we bring that value as well. And like I said, and then the attorneys bring that additional value where, like you mentioned, with your attorney's fees, a lot of times those settlements are paid separate to you guys, where you guys can negotiate your fees at that point afterwards.
Yeah, we never take a percentage of the client's portion. Whatever they get paid.
On a homeowner's insurance case, we don't touch their benefits. We get our attorney's fees separate.
Let's discuss public adjuster's percentage, because I was just having lunch with a good friend of mine. Okay. He was telling me how he got somebody was charging him 25%.
Right.
And I know for hurricanes, the percentage is different every year.
So after a storm hits, and they've declared it a national emergency for the area, let's say a storm hits, legally as a PA, I cannot charge more than 10%. Again, that's my fees for every hurricane. Again, we as PAs, we also have upfront costs that, we have to provide to the insurance, again, to get you the proper value. So sometimes we got to retain engineers, or we got to get certain experts of ourselves on top, the software, everything that we use, that again, those are where our fees go in. Outside of a named storm, most of those fees by law is 20%. And that's the max that as a PA I can charge. There are some firms out there that charge more. I find that a ridiculous thing, because once you start charging the customer over that amount, you're then taking it out of their pocket.
How are they going to get the repairs done if they got to pay 40% to you?
Correct. Right. And it, you're already, getting your service done by, that 20% should cover all of your costs. So there shouldn't be any need as a PA, at least my firm, I'm not in the business to hurt my customers financially in any way, shape, or form. So, it's one of those situations that for me, I just, 20% is the max. Sometimes I do lower my fees, but it's very rarely. There's certain occasions, for that. But, everything is obviously, unnegotiable, and that's something that, you and that public adjuster should always sit down and discuss as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so if they're charging more than 20%.
Right.
It's a red flag.
It's a red flag. Yeah, that's probably
correct. Somebody that you shouldn't, in my opinion, be working with, because at the end of the day, they're taking money out of your pocket.
Yeah.
And, so again, if you don't mind, paying more, then hey, that's on you. But that's great. Something that stay away from.
Great segue. Let's talk about shitty public adjusters. So we work with public adjusters hand in hand. The public adjusters, like you said, are the infantry guys that are out there helping people on the front line. Like, hey, let me get this done. If I can't get it done, I'll patch it to an attorney. Like Abe, who specializes in homeowners insurance cases when the insurance company pay. Because a lot of times you'll go to a job, you'll see the job, you'll be like, this is a $300,000 job, and it's legit, needs to be paid, and the insurance company says, no, we think there's like 5 different reasons we don't have to pay, and they're all bullshit.
Correct.
And so I'll go and take them to court, and we'll do what we got to do in the court.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of public adjusters who are really shitty. And don't know what they're doing. They're not properly trained. You worked at the insurance company for 10 years. You did training with an insurance company. I've met public adjusters who did a week of training. They were like, just knock on doors and tell people you'll give them a free home inspection and look for leaks. And if you find leaks, you can get them some money. And I know that they're bad when they promise people a brand new roof. They say, listen, from the jump, hey, how are you? Let me check your house. If I find that you have a roof leak, I can get you a brand new roof, won't cost you a thing. And it's like, sure, I'd like a new roof. I heard those are expensive. So that people come up, they're up on the roof and then maybe they break a few tiles, which is they're not supposed to do. Break a few tiles. I had a guy, it was a public adjuster. We have a case right now. Well, I can't talk about that case because it's in litigation. I don't want to talk about that case. I had another case where this guy, is the same public adjuster kept going out to the house for tile damage.
Right.
He was saying the tiles were installed properly, but because of settlement,
right,
they were popping. And he was trying to get them replaced, and the guy wasn't even slick, the public adjuster, because he had the floors replaced.
Right.
Well, they took out the floors. They were supposed to put new floors in.
Right.
Allegedly, the new floors did the same thing within a month. I said, that's not possible, man. So he opened 2 claims. He opened one claim. They paid on it. They said, here's a bunch of money to put all new floors. And what people don't know about with public adjuster is, let's say you have 1 or 2 broken tiles, right? The insurance company is like, that's just 1 or 2 tiles on your floor.
We can repair that.
Yeah. We'll just, don't you have one under the staircase or one in the closet? We'll fix that. We'll just pop it out, put a new one in, and you got this wonky looking tile or whatever, right? And what people don't know, and this is like, when people hear this, they're like, what? They got to pay for all of the continuous flooring of that tile.
Absolutely.
Contiguous. They got to pay all the way throughout.
Right.
And even if, let's say this room and the room next to it, there's a room in the middle with carpet, but this room and another room have flooring. But if you can see it, if it's in line of sight, they got to replace all of the flooring.
Absolutely.
To match. And so, because what people don't know is the tile has a die lot, even if it's not a stone, it's a fake stone.
Correct.
It's got a die lot. So this die from this month and this month are slightly different. Correct. It's not going to look good.
Absolutely.
So they got to redo the whole floors. Yep. So this guy opened a claim. Maybe that one was legitimate, and they paid. They said, here's like $40,000 to fix all your floors.
Correct.
They can't pay you the handyman price to fix your floors. I can get my floors done for a lot less than $40,000, but I'm going to use a handyman. I don't know if he's coming in. He might show up drunk, you know, like that kind of thing, which we've all had to deal with the pandemic. You can't find good help these days. So then he opened a second claim, but he never installed the other tile. He just opened the claim, and they were like, this is fraud. You don't have these kind of claims like months apart. So I was like, I'm not getting involved in this, dude. I got my own problems. I don't need that.
The inexperience on that public adjusters, what they like to understand, the carrier comes out, they document everything. They photograph, every inch of that house. Universal is one of those. If they show up at your house, listen, they're going in every single room. They're taking picture of every single room, every single kitchen, every single bathroom for underwriting purposes, where, again, that's the only time that they get to inspect. And, they know, and they keep histories of those claims, and a lot of times, I tell my customers, and, in that case, that PA, just lack of experience, dude, if you know you didn't replace the floor, why would you recommend, that? So he deserved that in the sense, and, difference of coming in with experience is just that, being able, there's plenty of work out there, in my opinion. Homes, you
don't need to create work in
you don't
this
need
industry.
To create industry.
You mentioned that Florida's the hurricane state, and I feel like that after a hurricane, it's like almost every house has some kind of damage to it, which produces more public adjusters that don't know what they're doing. They see the money that can be made.
Yeah, PAs come out of the woodwork on
hurricanes. I meet all kinds of guys.
I consider public adjusters, and I've said this to Abe many times, as the closest thing you could be to being an attorney without being an attorney.
Correct.
You're making 20% of a claim, that some of these claims could be in the millions.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Especially on the commercialized size of things.
Yeah.
Sure. So you have to hold yourself to that standard.
Correct.
You can't be doing those.
I know a lot of guys don't have training, and it sucks because they'll call me. Hey, Abe, I got this case. They denied it. And I'm like, yeah, that's a real denial. That's a legitimate denial. They're like, oh, but, they paid me on this other claim. And I'm like, yeah, well, the insurance company was generous on that one. They probably shouldn't have paid you. And like a lot of people say, and this is the insurance company talking, oh, the public adjuster, everybody knows they boost the numbers. They boost the numbers. But a lot of public adjusters miss a lot of things because they don't know. They miss certain things on there. Like, for instance, if I got to paint this wall, the insurance company, like, let's say I had a leak and this wall got damaged, they got to paint all the walls in this room.
With the exception of the blue one, because that's
they got to paint all the walls in this room. They got to repaint my baseboards. What else do they got to do?
If the wood floor is there, again, gets damaged, that again is also covered. And if this wood floor is continuous,
this is vinyl, but
right? The vinyl wood, snap lock that you got here, like I said, that will, if it's continuous, obviously, that's paid for. So again, that's where the value of the claim, starts to increase. A lot of times, the insurance adjusters will come in, they'll do patch repairs. Oh, we can just paint this wall, it's fine. But no, it's not fine, because like you said, with the tiles, paint is similar to that. There's a different shading. There's matching statutes in the state of Florida that require those. And if you don't know these kind of things, how do you argue with the insurance? Those guys come prepared to put us down and say, no, the information that you're telling me is incorrect. If you don't have an argument for that, your back's against the wall, and there's a lot of PAs that they just go out, find a claim, they work it, and then if they don't get the results, they pass it on to the attorney, because they know the attorney is the one actually will be doing the handling for them, because they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So
this is a good point. So a lot of guys don't know what they're doing, but Chris said it's 20%. So you get a claim that's worth $100,000.
Right.
They don't know what they're doing. They put in an estimate for $50,000.
Right.
And then the insurance carrier is going to lowball. The insurance company knows it's a $100,000 claim, but their estimate says it's a $20,000. Right. So they're like, yeah, we're not that far off. We're at 20, you're at 50. Maybe we can meet in the middle. When really, if you hired a qualified public adjuster, with years of experience in the industry, you'd start off at 100. Right. The insurance company would start off at 20.
Correct.
And it's a $60,000, $70,000 claim versus a $20,000 to $30,000 claim. And I see that all the time when I'm litigating cases, and I feel bad because I can't tell the homeowner, hey, you hired this idiot public adjuster. I would never do that, because the public adjuster sends me work. I can't say, listen, man, this guy forgot like 5 different things. But the insurance companies always say that, you guys inflate the value of the claim, but a lot of times you don't. A lot of times it's a real number. They just don't want to admit that.
So some firms, they hire estimators. Some guys, they don't review the numbers as well. So they'll just tell that estimator, hey, go into a house and just whatever, throw everything at the wall. If it sticks, it sticks. Great. I'll try to hash this out. Some guys are more qualified at the negotiating aspect of it. There's a reasoning. I never understood, because I worked on the carrier side. Now I'm a PA. There's a checks and balance is what I like to call. The insurance is in the industry to not pay claims. We're in the industry, obviously, to help. So there are some line items that at times we do include because it is necessary. But policy, we understand that policy itself won't cover that. Like some estimates will include, hey, to bubble wrap certain things, like a glass art or something like that. Will they do that when they move or they're doing the repairs? Absolutely. But is that something that the policy is required to pay for? No. But we still include the cost, because that's an actual assessment of what it will be needed to have that done. The insurance understand that, and that's where the negotiated part comes in. But again, if you're dealing with somebody that's inexperienced, or at least, sometimes I like to call them, they're not doing so well financially as well. They'll just take a settlement, that will hurt the homeowner as well. They'll say, okay, well, it's a $60,000 claim, but the carrier's like, well, I'll throw 30 on it, and will you take it? I mean, yeah.
That's almost 10 grand for the PA.
Correct. And
the homeowner might never see money like that. Right. They're not sophisticated. Sometimes they're like, yeah, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, and like you said, they can go hire that,
fulanito.
Right. That guy that just comes in, that, handyman that, like you said, decided, hey, the night before, I'm going to drink a handle, and then I'm going to go into work and say, hey,
or go into work with the handle.
Right.
I hired that guy in Fort Myers. I showed up a week later. I gave the guy the keys. He's like, yeah, yo puedo hacer todo, chico. Ya tú sabes, mano. And he shows up, and I get there, and there's 18 freaking Heineken bottles.
Oh, wow.
Inside the building, lined up against the wall that he's supposed to be painting everything. And he painted, I had these LED hi-hats. He painted over the LED hi-hats.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, what? They're brand new LED hi-hats.
After the 12th video.
Yeah. I'm like, what is wrong with this guy, dude? Put some painter's tape, prep for an hour, and then paint. You could drink all you want after that. I don't care. It was literally the easiest job in the world, and the guy was dirt cheap. And it was in the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, like March, April. I was like, whatever, man.
That ended up costing you double, huh?
And I had to pay twice. You're right. I had to pay twice.
Vitor, I love to educate the consumer.
Right.
So after they notice property damage in their house, what do you suggest the next steps are?
Obviously, call me. That would be the
That's a nice plug.
Right? Call a public adjuster if you can, because again, we can come in, we can give you the correct assessment. We can go over policy before you make the mistake of filing a claim incorrectly. Sometimes you may have damage, but damage is a very broad term, and you have to have cover damage. And there's certain perils that apply to those cover damage, and so that's why it's important to contact us.
So these consumers, they don't even need to file their own claim. You could handle that for them.
I can file that, and that's.
I feel like a lot of people, they think, oh, I need to call them right away and report it. But in essence, the insurance company sometimes will try to trick them to say the wrong things.
And that's crucial also by, when you open a claim, a lot of times what you say to them can be held against you. It's the term like attorneys say, whatever you say can be held against you in a court of law. And that's, every conversation you have with the carrier, they're documenting it. In the back end, they have their own CRM systems that they basically go in, they're documenting every conversation that they had. So-and-so called in. Even if you call in by mistake, so-and-so called in by mistake and, close file, whatever the case is. Yeah. So they're always keeping track, in case if, God forbid, it does go to court, they get subpoenaed, they can see exactly what it's going. So I would say, call that. If you got a leak, after you've contacted me, obviously you want to get that, plumbing leak repaired right away. Call a plumber. Before we move forward with a claim, like I said, let me just come by, take a look, because like I said, it goes against with the other PAs that don't have experience. Sometimes a claim may not be worth file because the damage may be small enough, and that person may not be able to see it, and why move over, open a claim, give a reason for your insurance to not want to either renew you or maybe bump your rates up for whatever reason for an improper filing. A lot of questions that I also get from the consumer is, if I file a claim, do my rates go up? The answer to that is no. It's on a consensus that the public has that if I file a claim, oh my God, that's bad. Don't file a claim.
That's why I have insurance.
Right. This is what you have insurance. They're there to pick up accidents, things that you unexpect to occurs, and then now you're out of money for thousands of dollars. A lot of people are afraid because they're like, oh, my premium is going to go up. To answer those, when has your premium ever not gone up in a year?
I've never. Okay, so I get that a lot. I get that a lot with car accidents.
Correct.
They go. Will my insurance go up? I said, listen, man, I'm going to get you $50,000 for your injuries that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. I'm going to get you $50,000. Are you really concerned about your $100 a month payment going up to $110? And then on top of that, my insurance goes up anyways.
Right.
We have 10 company cars. Correct. And if you've ever seen a handsome guy on the side of a van, that's your boy. We got 10 company cars, and my insurance goes up every single year, even though we don't put in a claim. Like there's parking lot accidents, stuff like that. I'm like, no, don't open a claim. Don't open a claim. I'll just, just go get it fixed right now. What's the big deal, And it's just like a little dent or whatever. And I'm like, no, just go get it fixed. The windshield damage. I was like, no, just go, let's use, and then it still goes up. So it's all,
Reason why it goes up is primarily because, like I said, it goes up by zip codes. And usually
it's because of Joe Biden's inflation, dude. It's his inflationary tactics. Joe Biden's inflationary tactics.
I had a guy yesterday, actually, who was super concerned. We filed a lawsuit on his case. The insurance company actually told him, hey, we're going to drop you, but we're covering you until January 2022. But after that, you got to go find another insurance company. So he called me freaking out. He was worried. He's like, well, now they're not going to cover my claim. Right. So it just back to the consumers, it's important to know that if you had that coverage on the date of loss, you're covered. That's what I told him. Once I told him that, he's like, okay, I won't bother you anymore. That's all. He was freaking out.
I have homeowners that says, like, hey, I filed a claim, but man, I hate my insurance. Can I switch in the middle of the claim? Absolutely. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they're still on the hook for that damage. They have to follow through and pay that. I get a lot of that too. Well, if I file through this, am I going to get dropped dropped. Reality is you can get dropped for anything. They can come in next year and say, hey, in the Palm Beach area, we're not going to write policies in that area. So guess what? You've never filed a claim. You've paid $50,000 in 10 years in premiums to them. And guess what? Your favorite carrier just decided, I don't like this territory because we're paying a lot of claim in this territory and we're going to pull out. So you can have that. Obviously for active gods like hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes of that nature, those claim counts don't count against society because it's an act of God. So most carriers, they just count it as like a loss, and a lot of the carriers also come with reinsurers. So, when those things occur, they got people behind them that are funding them to be able to go out and pay, and they're going to get that money back.
But I experienced that myself with Universal.
Right. There's a lot of carriers that, at the end of the year, they go belly up. They just not structured properly, and they
especially
just,
after the hurricanes and stuff like that.
COVID actually happened a lot with, I remember Southern Fidelity was one of those. Great carrier. I mean, dude, that was a company that never gave me any issue at all with claims.
That's why they went out of business. They were overpaying. I love those companies that pay more. Like, I'll submit an estimate for $50,000.
Right.
And they'll be like, oh, we'll pay you. Can we pay you $49,000? And I'm like, $49,500. Right. And we got a deal. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, we'll settle with you. And I'm like, what? I was like, what's wrong with these people? This claim was worth $30,000. They should have settled. Any other big carrier would have settled it for half that.
Right.
With a fight, you know. And some of those smaller guys do overpay.
Right.
Have you ever handled
which is good.
any
They
of
should
these
pay.
business interruption claims?
I have.
Yeah.
So
have you gotten paid on a business interruption claim from COVID though?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about those, man. Those I have about 50 to 100 of those.
Right.
And
I know that there are stipulations in the policy that I know our previous president even made a comment about it.
Donald Trump. He said they should pay if there's insurance coverage. Correct. The insurance company should pay. Throw that clip up. I got that clip.
Business interruption insurance. I'd like to see these insurance companies. You have people that have paid, they've been paying for 25, 30, 35 years, business interruption. They've never needed it. All of a sudden they need it. And I don't see the word pandemic mentioned. Now, in some cases it is. It's an exclusion. But in a lot of cases, I don't see it. I don't see reference, and they don't want to pay up. I would like to see the insurance companies pay if they need to pay, if it's fair. And they know what's fair. People that have never asked for business interruption insurance, and they've been paying a lot of money for a lot of years for the privilege of having it, and then when they finally need it, the insurance company says, we're not going to give it. We can't let that happen.
I'm attorney Abraham Ovadia. Thank you for visiting our website, covid19lawyers.co. We are here to help Floridians during these tough times. If you're a business owner and your business has suffered losses due to coronavirus, contact our office or submit your policy on our website for a free evaluation. Our lawyers will review your insurance policy within 48 hours and will let you know if you have a claim or if you don't. If you have a claim, there is no obligation to hire our office. We want you to open a claim with us, but there is no obligation to hire us. If you choose to hire our law office to handle your business interruption claim, then we work on a contingency. That means that we only get paid if you do.
There's definitely, and he brought that up because of all those lawsuits. Because again, it's a world of verbiage, and we got shut down because of a pandemic, and it wasn't due to a virus. Yes, COVID-19 is a virus, but they didn't close it down because of COVID-19.
It was the Democrats,
right?
So they were forced to close.
Yeah, so they were forced to close down, and that cost a lot of
government
businesses.
orders,
right? There were some government orders, mandates that were in place
to shut down.
Right, to shut down, and the carriers, because they see that, hey, there's a loophole here. and they didn't cover their T's on that one, you know, they're like, dude, what do we do? And because they got the deeper pockets, they, you know, they're fighting that a lot with legislations. They're getting into the White House for that as well. So, you know.
What about pre-COVID business interruption claims? Did you have any of those that you want to talk about?
No, I didn't really touch most. I've dealt with a lot of commercial. I had like a big commercial claim down in Miami for a drainage sewage line. Cast iron claims, you know, a lot of times, those are a lot of times, you know, you get a break or you get a crack in your tile and you're like, man, where did that crack come from? And little did you know, you've got, you know, plumbing issues that are underneath your foundation that are leaking.
Is it like 1975, I think?
Any homes under below that was from the 70s or below was basically built with cast iron. Anything after that, then they went to polybutylene, which is even worse. It's the, you know, worst thing that you can ever install. They actually got a class action lawsuits against those as well. So those are like home run cases. Carriers will come in, they'll pay it, and then they'll subrogate.
If you have it, that's it. They replace it.
Yep. So they won't. They're gonna fight it because policy says, oh, we only pay for that section. But there's that argument, you know, like of continuation. Like, how do you repair one section, and you know, how do we know a year from now we're not gonna have the same problem? And you know, and so do you want me to file 20 claims in the next 10 years, you know, based on plumbing problems, or do you rather just, you know, swallow the bill and just replace it and get it done and over with and pay one lump sum, you know, the claim and get it over with? And a lot of these carriers, they're realizing it's just cheaper to just pay that bad boy, you know, and keep it moving for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. We just had a guy on here. He said his craziest case, he's a criminal lawyer, guy set his balls on fire.
Right.
The guy who got his balls set on fire did 4 drive-by shootings, 4 days in a row, same house. What's your craziest case?
So I have a case in Lake Worth, and it started off as a hail claim, okay? And what do I mean? Hail.
In Lake Worth.
In Lake Worth, yes.
I've seen hail right outside.
I live in Wellington.
That was just me throwing ice at you.
Yeah, I live in Wellington, and believe it or not, I you know, most of my career is in Texas, where I dealt with real hail. And what do I mean by real hail? We're talking, you know, quarter size. We're talking 2
broken
inches.
Windshield.
Right. We're talking. I've seen hail go through decking of roofs and inside people's living room.
It killed people.
Yeah. You know, I've seen, you know, like we're talking.
Thank God we just have hurricanes
softball
here.
size, like on sightings, it looks like a drive-by on houses.
It's like scary.
So when you come here and you see some hail, you know, I tend to get a little excited because I'm like, it's not common, but it does happen. So it started off with hail.
I'll tell you right now, if I was on a jury and they tried convincing me that there was hail in Lake Worth, I'd be like, you guys are full of shit.
You gotta get the
this
video.
is insurance fraud.
Right.
If it starts hailing bad, just please take a video.
So so there's, you know, obviously I can prove that with weather reports. You know, there's recording with that.
I have a video, remember?
Correct. You know, Alvaro's house, there, you know, Dennis was actually pulling up to his house, and there was a tornado. And during that tornado, you know, some tornadoes that form bring hail with it, and those cause damage. And, you know, sometimes they touch down quickly and they lift up, but the storms that it's brewing brings the hail with it.
Yeah. I've seen it twice.
Yeah, they're pretty violent. And like I said, a lot of times people don't even realize it. Some are pea-sized. You know, I have a customer that sent me a video, literally it hailing. I said the same thing. I'm like, dude, it doesn't hail in Florida. And she sends me a little pea-size just bouncing off of the back. And she's so excited. She's like, oh my God, it's snowing. And I'm like, that's not snow, man.
Get under.
Right, like that's
I've
not
never
snow.
Seen them that big, but maybe like the size of like marble.
Yeah, you know. So I've seen, you know, I've had photos literally golf ball size, like you know, like in Texas. You know,
how big?
Like, golf ball. You know. So you know, you get pretty. It started off with hail, and 2 months into the claim, the neighbor behind him, house catches on fire. And which in return catches his fence on fire, which catches sheds on fire. And then luckily the fire department got there before his house caught on fire. So it stopped that fire. So here's claim number 2. Victor's coming in, knocking on the door like, hey, you know, again, I was already his PA, so he's calling me to come out. We ended up getting paid him on the contents and, you know, the fencing, which is the other structure coverage that he had. That was paid out and settled.
Oh, it's the same house or was it a neighbor?
Same house. This is the same homeowner that I had. And literally, we're talking like a 2 months. Like I filed the hail claim. 2 months later goes by, boom, his neighbor's house catches on fire.
Why did he call you for the hail claim? What was wrong?
So he had a leak that was coming in from after the storm that had come by to his house. He noticed a leak in his bathroom, and he didn't realize the extent of the leak. And when I came in, brought my restoration company, they found out that, you know, water was actually leaking all the way through down the seam and going into his living room. And, you know, it just caused an amount of mold that he already had.
The hail caused that? Or
no,
he just called you because he's like, I got hail.
He called me because he had leaks inside. He noticed, you know, water stains. So he called me to say, hey, you know, something's going on with my roof. You know, I may need an expert that can assess this to see if I have a claim or not. Okay. And that's kind of how I got referred into this claim. Gotcha. And then, like I said, as I was working his claim, again, he had Universal. So again, Universal is one of those carriers that they're going to just take 90 full days. Yeah. They're going to ask you for everything in their mother for it, you know. And 2 months later, neighbor's house literally catches on fire. After that happened, 3 weeks from the fire, the neighbor's house across the street catching on fire, this little old man that lives across the street from him, right? This was during the election, and you know, all of like you know, you were saying
Trump signs everywhere.
All the Biden voters are like, go vote, and this guy comes in and he's like, I gotta go vote, and he gets in his car. He's got a little like foot cast on his feet, and he's backing up, and all of a sudden he thinks, oh, I'm in forward, and he goes in reverse, and he plows right into my homeowner's house. I'm literally no joke. I went fishing that day, and I'm literally getting off the boat. And my homeowner calls me as calm as can be, Victor, there's a pickup truck in my living room. And I literally looked at my phone.
There's a Biden guy out there driving a pickup truck? Yeah. I thought they all drove like those little Mini Coopers.
Yeah, he had an F-150, and he goes, dude, there's a pickup truck in my house. And I looked at my phone, and I was like, and I got back on the phone. I'm like, dude, don't play like that because, you know, like these are some serious. He's like, no, I have a pickup truck inside my house. I'm like, how does a pickup truck end up in your house?
Biden voters.
And sure enough, he sends me a photo, and there's a pickup truck inside his house. And it was a situation where I called. This happened at about, I want to say like, the accident happened at 3. So by the time, like I said, I got off my fishing trip, got off the boat, got to him. It was about like 4:35. It was like an hour and a half into it. Told him, hey, I'm in the middle of the ocean. Like I'm on my way there, but you're gonna have to give me some time, you know, to get to you. So he waited. I'm there. Police is still taking their pictures. You know, they're doing their investigation, and I'm pulling up. And sure enough, there was a whole pickup truck inside his house. And you know, I called Universal. And the homeowners are distraught, crying because they got little kids. You know, the wife is freaking out. Yeah. I'm shocked that the husband was as calm as he was because, you know, here's a guy that the city just came in, slapped a sticker in your house, and your house is condemned. You can't live in your house moving forward. And where does he go? He's got 3 kids. You know, he doesn't have a dime in his balance. ALE. So I ended up, you know, calling Universal. And I called, and again, I knew a manager inside Universal, and I just called her directly. Again, just as I know her because a lot of times I have a hard time getting a hold of their adjusters. So she's the one that I like will crack the whip at times when, you know, I'm not getting a response. So I contacted her, and you know, and I told her, I was like, hey, I need a $50,000 check, like overnighted, like now. And the lady laughed at me. She was like, dude, you're crazy. You know there's no way I'm going to get that authorization. And I said, do you have an email? She goes, yeah. I went to every single neighbor's house that was to the left of him, in front of him, and to the right of him. They all had Ring cameras. They all had surveillance cameras in their house. And I was able to capture the whole accident from beginning to the moment the house struck the house. And literally before that call, the lady was apologizing to me and saying, nope, you're absolutely right. Here's the full of $50,000. He got paid $50K before he even walked out of that driveway.
That's having a good public adjuster.
That's
right
correct.
There, right?
Having a great, having an understanding.
It's a good feeling when you get the insurance company
right.
the balls.
Pretty much.
That's funny because I had a claim with Universal where they spent 2.5 years in litigation with me because they didn't want to pay renters insurance. Guys renting an apartment, condominium.
I remember this. I went to the guy's house.
Person above has a water leak
right.
into his place, floods his whole place.
Correct.
He has to leave. Everything's wet.
Right.
They have to leave. The city comes by like, you got to leave. There's water everywhere.
Right.
It was a lot of water.
It was like a $20K policy too, I think.
Yeah, it was like a small policy,
right.
and they ended up paying everything from that guy that he wanted, plus my attorney's fees of I think $8,000 or $9,000 attorney's fees.
Right.
They could have just paid the guy.
Right.
It was like they went to his house. They're like, yeah, there definitely was water up in that guy's place, and it flooded your entire room with this much water on the floor. So sure, we'll give you a check. Here you go. He's a renter.
Wow.
His landlord was like, you got to leave. I am not giving you back your security
right.
deposit because I'm broke and I need money to fix this. Right. Blah, 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 blah.
Like the exact reason you get renters.
The guy doesn't speak English.
Yep.
The guy didn't speak English. He's a Brazilian dude.
Yeah.
And they totally left him high and dry. And
wow.
the couple was super pissed at me. And I'm like, that's just Universal, baby. Right. That's not me. I'm working.
You got to think, too, his policy is worth $20K. How much do you think this guy's paying a month paying renters insurance? And these guys, it's like, you treating him like that?
Yeah.
Treat him like shit. So nice people, 2 kids, 2 little kids. How do they do that to these people? I don't know. And he doesn't speak English.
Right.
And so we're at a mediation. In the middle of litigation, we go to mediation, and they go, you guys never notified us about the loss, not even once. You just sued us. And I'm like, that's weird. We don't do that. We normally send you letters and this and that. So, this is a 2-year case. We had literally people handle it that aren't here anymore. Right. We found the emails in the mediation. We're like, we sent you 50 emails
yes.
to pay this claim, yes. gave you receipts. They're like, we want receipts. I don't have a receipt for my TV and my mattress and my bed frame. I don't keep receipts on that.
They'll ask for, 4-point inspection reports for houses 30 years ago. It's like, how am I going to even find that or pull that up,
I went to this guy's house, met with the adjuster from the Elephant Company, because I remember.
You can call them Universal. They suck. I mean, what are they going to do? Sue me? They suck. It's like a fact.
Showed up in his Elephant car. Comes in, meets with me. I just showed him one video. I have the guys there with me. Got the video. The water is coming out of the fans in the air. The water's just pouring out of the fan right onto his bed, splashing into his closet where all of his clothes are. I was like, why are we here? What are we doing?
And these are what pisses me off the most is these are working class people.
Right.
This guy doesn't speak English. His wife doesn't speak English. They're raising 2 kids in this country. They're busting their ass every day to pay bills. They're renting. They're not homeowners in a $1 million house where the property values in Florida went up 30%. Right. These are the people that need the money right away so that they can go buy their stuff.
Right.
And they dragged it out for 2 years. The guy was ready to give up 2 or 3 times. He's like, just drop the whole thing. I'm never going to get paid. And I'm like, no, we're going to get you paid. And I'm going to get paid too. And that's what ended up happening. So, I mean, I'm happy we got a good result for that guy.
Too, I remember I asked the renter for the landlord's number so that way I could let him know what we do. And the landlord was like, no, the insurance company's already paying me. I was like, you know.
So the homeowner probably had their own policy and the renter had their own policy.
Right.
That's how it worked.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the same company too.
Probably. Man. They insure a lot of people.
Yeah.
Universal insures a lot of people, and they really need to step their game up to do a better job. Because every claim that I get with them, they don't do anything till you sue. And then they're like, sorry, you caught us.
Universal's the $5,000 company. They offer everybody $5,000.
$5,000 you could have a burned down house.
$50,000 thing.
Is that their unofficial motto? We're the $5,000 company.
Listen, they live by that motto. It's either 5 or 10K. And like I said, in the 10K, those are like your house got to be on a slab for them to come out. Here's $10,000,
So, all right, man, cool. It was nice chatting with you. Okay. Thanks for telling us about what you do. If anybody wants to get a hold of Vitor, you can hit him up. We've got his links and stuff in the video. We'll put his number up. And thanks for joining us. Any other public adjusters that are good, that are excellent, want to be on here, we're happy to hit up Chris. We'll put up, his name's Valet Chris. You can hit him up on Instagram, all right, or give him a call. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining, all right? Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Appreciate it.